Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. One of the big questions any religious person has to face at unexpected times in life is, what is God? The truth is that people who aren't so religious also have to face this question, but they have a much easier way of getting out of finding an answer. The religious person, however, has no such luxuries. They can either stare the beast in the eye and try to find an answer, or they can go through their lives with a slightly uncomfortable feeling that they really don't know what they truly believe in. This puts religious people in general in a bit of a bind. This is, after all, a quite central feature of the entire notion of religious belief. Some religions, it turns out, make things somewhat easier for their believers to come to terms with this question. Christianity, for instance, produced a formula that seems to crystallize the image of God in a fairly straightforward manner. Of course, true Christian theology gets much deeper than any quick and easy image, but easy access is there for those who want it. Judaism has no such easy path. While the Bible provides more images than any individual may wish for, subsequent Judaism has steered its theology so that God is the most unimaginable thing in reality. In fact, it would be safe to say that God cannot be imaged at all in Judaism. This has become a matter of supreme importance in maintaining the strict monotheistic belief that is so central to the Jewish faith. So what is a Jew to do if they truly wish to have some idea of what God actually is and are not satisfied with being told that we can never know the answer to that question? The most likely thing they will be told is that we can know what God does, but not what God is. This approach seems to do the trick for most people who entertain such thoughts, and it certainly is the tried and true method that Judaism has employed for centuries. However, there are always going to be those who won't be satisfied with this either, and they may need something else. They need a real working image of God. It turns out that there are many of these in the Bible, and even a few in subsequent Judaism. The Creator is the first one that comes to mind, although this could easily be relegated to the category of what God does and not what God is. But there are others that may not be so subject to these semantics. One of them appears in this week's Parsha. The Parsha is called Pinchas. That word is a name. Pinchas is a descendant of Aaron, the high priest, who by virtue of a quirk in the technicalities of the Bible was not one of the hereditary priests who were Aaron's male descendants. However, owing to an incident that occurred at the end of last week's Parsha, he was rewarded this status. The incident was a mini rebellion which involved blatant sexual improprieties with women of the border nation of Midian. The most blatant of these took place right in front of the tabernacle. Pinchas was the man of the hour in taking the bold move to kill the two people involved, while everybody else, including Moshe, were stunned into paralysis. As a result of his actions, he was rewarded with the belated status of Kohen, or priest. The Parsha moves on from this and into another census. But after the details of the census, which take up a good deal of the Parsha, we finally get into a short section concerning the ultimate demise of Moshe. He was reminded by God of his part in an incident concerning bringing water out of a rock, and told that he, like his brother Aaron, must die on the outskirts of the Holy Land. However, he was told to ascend a certain mountain on the eastern border, and from there he would be able to see the land. Moshe then makes a strange but somewhat expected request of God. Let HaShem, the God of spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the assembly, who will go out before them and come before them, and who will bring them out and bring them in, so that the assembly of God should not be like sheep without a shepherd. While this request certainly sounds reasonable, and nobody could fault Moshe for making it, there is something strange about it. What is this description that Moshe gives of God? Quote, the God of the spirits of all flesh. This does seem like an odd way of describing God. As a result of this request, God immediately told Moshe that his successor was to be his longtime follower and protege, Joshua. He was the obvious choice, and he certainly fulfilled Moshe's requirements of one who could lead the assembly properly. Moshe was told the appropriate ceremony for investing Joshua with the authority to be the successor, and the procedure was carried out. The Israelites were ready to continue on after Moshe's death. But what about that strange description of God? It turns out that this very description, with only a slight addition, was actually stated earlier in this very book. In fact, it came up 3 parshas ago in the parsha named Korach, the man who led his own rebellion against the authority of Moshe and Aaron. In the course of all that, God had told Moshe and Aaron to separate from the group of rebels led by Korach because they were to be divinely destroyed. While this might seem like an appropriate biblical punishment for this rebellion, Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces and said, El, the God of the spirits of all men, can it be that one man sins and the entire assembly must bear the wrath? Without going into the details of what happened as a result of this pleading to spare some of the rebels, suffice it to say that it had some effect. What is important for us is that this same expression is used in describing God. The only addition is this single word El, which is one of the ancient biblical names of God. Why it is used here as the preface to this description of God is a bit of a mystery. But again, this is not our focus. We wish to understand that description of God. Why is it used in these 2 occasions and nowhere else to somehow encapsulate some idea of what God is? These 2 cases don't seem to have all that much in common with each other. One was a rebellion and the other was preparation for the inevitable future. But there is at least one thing that they have in common. In both cases, the fates of many people were at stake. What would happen in each case was something that would affect the lives of so many people, of different temperaments and attitudes and beliefs and situations. In neither case could everyone simply be stuffed into one big basket and treated as if they were all clones of each other. In the situation of Korach, it was the fates of his various followers, some of whom may have borne greater or lesser guilt in the rebellion. In particular, Moshe seemed to be stressing the fact that none of the followers were as guilty as the ringleaders of the rebellion, and thus they should be treated differently. In the case of selecting the successor to Moshe, the situation was even more complex. This was the entire nation of the Israelites who were to be the subjects of this fateful choice. They certainly were not clones of each other. The leader had to be someone who could know how to deal with each of them, both as an individual and as part of the whole. This was no easy task. To be able to, quote, go out before them, to lead them out and bring them in, called for a unique person who was up to this task. Otherwise, they would be like, quote, sheep without a shepherd. The common theme to both cases is the need to step into the spirits of all flesh, to know what each person needs, or to know what each person's guilt was in the case of Korach, is something that no human being can ever hope to fathom. Moshe understood this, and he knew that only God could possibly possess this level of knowledge. These 2 cases, possibly unique in all the situations of the Bible, required this level of discrimination, this fathoming into the depths of the multitude of individual personalities. Who could possibly know the inner thoughts of another, their motivations and their feelings, their beliefs and their doubts? We have trouble enough gaining this knowledge of ourselves, let alone that of another. But God has this mysterious power. God fathoms the mind. God penetrates into the spirit. We don't understand how God does this. But then again, we don't understand how God creates the universe or why things are the way they are either. Unlike us, God can tell the absolute difference in motivation between 2 people who are doing what seems like the exact same thing. Both want to help, both want to rebel, both want to understand, both want to challenge. We guess at which one is genuine and which one is fake, which one really wants it and which one is being dragged along. God has no such limitations. God knows the entire story even better than the person who is doing whatever is being done. This is what it means to be the God of spirits, to understand and to fathom the unfathomable spirit. This image of God as that which knows the Spirit has become a classic of Judaism. It almost defines the image of the personal God. God knows us intimately, even better than we know ourselves. Anytime we sense that feeling deep within ourselves, that feeling of inner self-knowledge, it means that we have touched upon this image. We may mistake this image for our own abilities. The truth is that this image probably does intersect and interact with our own faculties. It is an image that penetrates into the mind. So there is a gray area in which the personal self is almost indistinguishable from the personal God. It may be reassuring to know that God understands who we are and what we really need. God knows our inner emotions and our deepest desires. God can detect the true path we want to take and even open up a few doors for us. It is nice to know that God is with you every step of the way, rising and falling with your emotional and spiritual upheavals, sensing the concerns and perhaps voicing tidbits of advice. The God of the Spirit is the divine component of the human conscience. It is the part that cannot be reduced to chemicals and atoms and always remains above those physical limitations. It interfaces with the soul in ways that religions attempt to understand but rarely get beyond the tip of the iceberg. That interface is the point at which God touches us most personally. It is our point of contact with God. It is so close that it is difficult to tell where the divine ends and the personal starts. Shabbat Shalom.